Here we are again. This is Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. And we talk about all kinds of topics. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we meet usually at 1:30 in the afternoon on Zoom and sometimes in person. If you are interested in finding out about programs, you can always check out biseniorcenter.org/calendar. We have a list of the activities or the topics that are coming up. The Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island sponsors these programs, and they offer care and day stay and respite programs, memory care up on Rolling Bay. To schedule a tour, to learn what their plans are, they're planning to have independent living and assisted living soon. You can call 360-689-4314. Also, I would like to acknowledge that we meet on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, our neighbors to the north, the Suquamish tribe, the people of the clear salt water. We are grateful for their hospitality. We honor them for their stewardship of these lands since time immemorial, and we are grateful that they are working with us so that we can learn to be good stewards as well. Today, we are going to be talking about a wonderful program called the Talking Book and Braille Library. And with us to describe some of the varieties of services that are available to people with low vision or no vision is Tressa Johnson, who is a librarian with Kitsap Regional Library out of the Bainbridge office. And I don't know, do you have a more specific title than that, Tressa? Are you research librarian or adult librarian or?
I am a research librarian. My official title is an adult service librarian. So the Bainbridge branch of Kitsap Regional Library has two librarians, degreed librarians specifically for adult services. I am one of them. I'm so excited to talk about the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. This is, I think, it's just such a fabulous use of our tax dollars, and it's an incredible gift to folks who take advantage of it, who know about it. So the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library is a free library service, and it is available to people who have low vision, who are blind, also those if you have dyslexia, a condition like aphasia, or perhaps a stroke has impacted your ability to read. Perhaps you don't have the dexterity to turn a page. Anyone who, for any reason, does not have access to a written book is eligible to become a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. So why would you want to become a member? When you become a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, they will send you a device. I have one here that I'll show in just a minute. And with that device, you can listen to audio books, audio magazines, audio newspapers, and you have access to more audiobook titles than are available on the consumer market. So publishers decide which books they are going to put into an audiobook format. They decide which will be available digitally. And however, the Talking Book and Braille Library, which is housed in the Washington Secretary of State office, is under the umbrella of the National Library Service, which is part of the Library of Congress. And the National Library Service has statutory authorization to more easily create audio versions of items that are available commercially. So since 1930s, I think, they have been able to make a recording, an audio recording of a book, any book that maybe is not available in at the library as a CD or as a digital book. Once you are, so every state has the equivalent of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. And once you become a patron of the Talking Book and Braille Library at the state level, you can then become a patron of the National Library Service at the federal level, and they have access to even more items. You can receive from them books in foreign languages, audiobooks in foreign languages. You can, if you are someone who has a smartphone or a tablet and you prefer to download to your device, you prefer that perhaps than the machine, you can install an app they've developed called BARD, B-A-R-D, which stands for Braille and Reading Download. And through that app, you can access items, audio items from just about anything that you're interested in. So how do you become a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library? Well, they have an application on their website, which is WTBBL.org. So for Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, or otherwise affectionately known as WTBBL. They do have an application on their website. It's a 4-page application, or you can stop by the Bainbridge Public Library. I have applications already printed off and ready for you. Part of the reason is that you need to have in order to become a patron, a professional has to authorize or sign the application saying that indeed you are eligible. And one of the people that has that is able to do that is a librarian.
Yeah, I find that so wonderful. It's like you can have your doctor or your librarian, which, you know, puts librarians at the proper status in connection with services, I think.
It is just lovely. The one thing that I wanted to bring this packet, I have these packets at the library, and they include an envelope. And the reason I include an envelope is because this program is completely free for the patron, including mailing costs. Mailing costs are covered. So when you fill out your application and you put it in the mail, you do not put a stamp on your envelope. Instead, you write "free matter for the blind," where you would place the stamp. Okay. I include in this packet not only the application, I also have some directions to getting started with your player. It should also be with your player when it arrives, but it's helpful to know a little bit about what to expect. I also include, and this is the 2022 book list for the Waterfront Book Group. This is a book group that meets at the Senior Community Center once a month on the 3rd Tuesdays. And all of the titles that we read are available at the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library.
So if when you get the 2023 one printed up, leave some here at the senior center and people could pick them up here as well.
You can pick up the list. Yes, absolutely. If you want the cassette, you can call the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, ask for Indigo, and Indigo will create a cassette with all 12 titles on it for you. So once you mail in your application, you'll receive this box. Okay, there's no postage on it because it is part of the program. You may use this box for as long as you need. You may use the device as long as you need it. When you are finished using it, whoops, I want to take you can see that the address, the mailing address, which will be labeled to you to arrive at your house, you can slip it out of this plastic sleeve and it says Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. You just put the digital player back in this box and take it to the post office, and it will be sent free to you at no cost back to the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. So let me show you what the device looks like. Now, there are several versions of this device. This is what's referred to as an advanced player. When I first became a patron of the library, specifically so that I could talk to people about it, have something to show folks, I had one of the regular players, and Jerry, who's here today to talk, suggested that I instead get the advanced player. And so that is what I recommend to people, is that and I've made this, I've made a note on every application to request the advanced player. You can see that the buttons are brightly colored. And you won't be able to see this, I don't think, but they are tactile. It also, you can charge it, you can plug it in to listen to it. It will also charge so that it doesn't have to be plugged in when you play it. In the front, it looks very much like one of the old cassette players, and at the Talking Book and Braille Library, they put the audio recordings on what looks like a cassette, and you can slip it in this hole that's in the front of the device. So that's one way that you can get books. There is also a thumb drive, a USB port for a thumb drive if you have the audiobooks on that in that form. You can also, and this is in the application, if you can also request headphones, a pillow that has speakers within the pillow. There are other devices that one might find useful when using this device. I want to talk briefly about how to get books. You've filled out the application. Your player, your advanced digital player has arrived. Now what? You have options. You can call the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library and ask them to send you specific titles. You can have them send you books, choose books that they think you might like. In the application, you have the opportunity to talk about what sort of books that you like to listen to. Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction? Do you like historical fiction, or do you prefer nonfiction history? That sort of thing. The librarians at the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library will make some choices, and that way you'll be surprised when it arrives in the mail, and you can see what you like.
Yeah, can I jump in here? Is
yes,
that okay?
please. Yeah.
So my father, who is in his 96th year, as he likes to put it, is a recipient, is a member, a patron of Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. And one of the beautiful things like this is it's like the way the old Netflix used to be, where once you send in one, you get one back. And if you didn't really tell them what you wanted, but you had a queue, or at least some point of view. So, you know, if my dad, who loves American history, did not tell them of any books he wanted, the next cassette would come anyway with books that would be related to the topics or areas that he was interested in. And the likelihood that he might be interested in those books is pretty high. I mean, obviously, there's all kinds of stuff that's written that you might not like in the genre you do, but it at least comes with 4 or 5 or 6. I can't remember how many books. So you're going to find probably something you're going to enjoy on there.
They usually send 6 books.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Jerry. So another way to get books, another option, a third way, you can go to their website, WTBBL.org. They have, you can access their catalog. Once you're a patron, you'll get a username and a password. So if you want to download your own, if you want to go to their catalog and get the books yourself, you will then sign in with that information so that you can download the books to a thumb drive and use your device to listen to that thumb drive. I talked a bit about the National Library Service and BARD, Braille and Reading Download. Once you are a member of your state Talking Book and Braille Library, Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, you can then apply to become a patron of BARD, a patron of that program. And you can call them just like you can call the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library and request specific titles. You can go on their website and use their catalog there. The Washington Talking Book and Braille Library does have access to their catalog, so that's another way to get that larger collection. It just it depends whether or not you decide to become a patron. Depends, I believe, and Jerry, correct me if I'm missing something or if I make an error. If you want to choose your own books and download your own books, then it's helpful to be a member of the National Library Service BARD. If you have a phone or a tablet and you would like to use it to download and listen, then the National Library Service is the organization that created the app, the BARD app, and you need to be a patron in order to use that. Jerry, what am I missing?
No, you're right. It's and it's been so long ago. I don't remember the process of signing up to BARD. I kind of think it happens at the same time. And just one other thing, like you said, they have a USB port on the side of the machine. You can buy blank cartridges for yourself. And I believe there's different, because inside that cartridge is a USB drive. And I believe you can get different size USB drives. So we did that for a while for my mom, because my sister and I were passing these back and forth, literally across the country, to fill them up for her, which is just more convenient. It gives you, like you say, you can pick out the actual books that you want, but BARD or the Talking Book and Braille Library does a really good job kind of following what you've said that you like. And they usually put 6 books on, but now my mom is getting a little spacey, so she was into the Cat in the Stack series. And so she really was having problems figuring out the machine to go from book to book to book to find her Cat in the Stacks on the 6 books. So I called the library and they put just Cat in the Stack, like 6 Cat in the Stack books on one cassette. And then when she was doing a book club, I asked them to put just that one book that her book club was reading on a cassette, and they'll work with you frontwards and backwards, to make it more usable, easier to usable for the end user.
Yeah, my dad had a similar issue with New Yorkers. He's been getting the New Yorker as the magazine that he would like. They don't offer all magazines, but they offer many, many magazines. And the New Yorker was one he wanted. And for some reason, there was some sort of an issue with the distribution. When he called, he got on the phone with somebody from Watable, and they said, well, we'll see what we can do here from this office to help you out. And sure enough, rather than one of the little red cassette boxes, a little blue cassette box came with his New Yorker in it.
Was it just the New Yorker then?
Yeah, that's all. That's the only magazine he's been interested in.
But
Apparently
so
they don't do. Apparently they don't do the London Review of Books. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the player will not play. I don't think it'll play Libby books. So
It will not.
It's set up for a certain, whatever you call it,
Format.
but the format. So the Talking Book and Braille and Bard have their own format. It's not the same, the one that the public library uses.
That's correct.
So,
Right. You're right.
But so the empty cassettes, I talked about that, which is very convenient if you really like the machine, and it's really convenient around the house. But I found myself trying to take it out into the garden, and where I could, I like to listen to my books outside. Tressa said that you can put an app on your smartphone or on your iPad, and I have it on both. But I was looking for the machine because I didn't know if Tressa had a machine, and I wanted to hold mine up. Yeah, I don't even know where the silly thing is. It's been so long since I used it. I put all of my books on my smartphone. I've probably got 135 books and maybe 20 magazines, and on my smartphone, so I can flip around and do what I want and download what I want. And I do have problems. Bard just did a remake of their website, and in some senses it's really nice. In other senses, they weren't thinking about blind people, and I've got some serious complaints about it, but we won't get into that here. But it's very convenient, very it's very simple to download books on your phone. And you can put your phone in your pocket and have a Bluetooth speaker, and you're off. And whenever I go walking, I've got a book in one ear. I found that it's dangerous to put both headphones in because I'll walk into traffic or something.
But that's kind of, what I think is kind of cool about this is the fact that it is available and useful for somebody as tech savvy as you, Jerry.
Yeah.
And somebody as totally non-tech savvy as maybe your mom was. And or my mom, at least my dad is like, he went from reading printed material to this without ever passing any kind of a Walkman or mobile smartphone device in between. And that advanced player, which Tressa was showing that you do not have the patience to take out into the garden, is great because it does travel and it's really easy to push those buttons. And if you don't know what the button is for, when you take the cassette out, you can push the button and the little device will tell you.
Yeah, it's very user friendly. It really is. If you don't have a cassette in it and you start pushing buttons, it'll automatically tell you what that button you're pushing is for. And they are all raised, and they are all do have Braille on them. And So it's a very user-friendly system. And sometimes the units break. And if you call the Talking Book and Braille office and say it's stuck in rewind, or it's not, whatever, they just say, look, we're mailing you a new one, mail that one back. There's no questions asked. And I do like the one with all the controls rather than the simplified ones, because it really lets you move around in a book.
And Jerry, I understand that the quality of the readers is really fairly good. All of the I should say that the readers are volunteers.
Correct.
So yeah, these are folks, they do go through a vetting process, but they are volunteers. And my understanding is that audio book narration is quite lucrative. And so volunteering for a Talking Book and Braille library is one way of getting experience, building your resume. And I haven't listened to a book, Jerry, but I've heard that the quality is fairly good. Have you found that, or am I?
So sometimes, I listen to a lot of books all the time. And, you might find an author that you really like. And then all of a sudden, the reader of that book just does such a brilliant job. And their voice is just, you just love listening to them, that you can actually search by reader and find other books that they've read. And they might not have nothing to do with what you started out with, but because they read a whole gambit of spectrum of different kinds of books. And I've done that for multiple readers that I found that I just like listening to them. I could almost care less what they're talking about at some points, but they have some really, really good readers. And every now and then you get an author that will read their own material, which is interesting. And I don't know if everybody heard of J.A. Jantz? So,
Yes.
And she's just as beautiful in person as she is. And I met her once, and I've written to her, and she's just the nicest person. And like most of her books are on Talking Book and Braille, the author has to check a little box when they're publishing their book saying they authorize their book to be used for the National Library, for the Talking Book and Braille Library. A small history of this is that in World War I, is that when they used all the gas? Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
So in wars, there was no mass units or anything. So if you got shot, you died on the field because you bled out. They didn't have any of this stuff. But they had, so there wasn't a lot of amputees and wounded veterans coming back from the wars. But from World War I, they had a massive amount of gas victims, and a large percentage of them were blind. So when they had to start taking care of veterans, the first batch of veterans that they had were blind. And so we kind of got in the front of the line, hence the free matters for the blind if you're mailing stuff. I mean, this comes all the way back to then. And they tried to do things to help the veterans out. And so that's where the reason that kind of the blind people are, first in line, they really had some of the best things from the government because, well, in the first foremost, there weren't any other survivors. But then as mass units got and everything, that all changed. But it's been an old, we've been around for a long time. And the the talking book and Braille library used to come to you as LPs, a record. And there's people in our group who remember getting a record in the in the mail, and you'd put that on your record player to listen to a book. Then they changed to cassettes, and as my ex-wife used to say, because they would bleed through, instead of using stereo, they would use the right and left to make 4 sides to record, and so you'd get bleed through on all the tracks. And it'd be like listening to a room full of people talking, and you'd train yourself to listen to the one that you wanted. But my ex used to say, how can you understand it? And I said, it just takes practice. But then they went all digital, which is the format we're in now, which is just brilliant. I mean, it's all on the little USB drives. You can download them to your phone, it's a really, really good system. And if you are going to use your phone, you can get audiobooks through our library, and that program is called Libby, and that actually handles all the libraries, if I'm correct. Yep.
Yes, virtually all public libraries work with the company that created that app, Libby.
And so, but that's free too, and that's the biggest thing to look out for. And it's, no, people just don't have the money for, I mean, if you go to Amazon, you can buy any book you want, kind of a thing, but it's really pricey.
Well, I love what Tressa said a moment ago about how actually, in some ways, you can get more books this way. They might not be read by the star of the biggest soap opera of our day, but Anne Lovejoy has her hand up.
I was just going to say, my first job, as Reed knows, was at the National Braille Press, and I was a volunteer reader, and you'd go into a little recording booth and have a big microphone and read the book. We were reading mostly for students at that time, but there was a lot of Braille work being done too. And we did some books where we had this awesome thermoplast thing. And so somebody, like if there was a story that involved scissors, we'd take scissors and open them, and then it would make a mold of the scissors to show the shape of the scissors, that particular kind, or whatever it was, because it was really fascinating to me. But those were that was a long time ago in the 60s, right? And I do remember being told by one of the students who sent back and said that I had a funny voice, or fun voice to listen to, I guess, which I thought was sort of sweet. But I loved also what Jerry said about the reader being the right reader can make a book or break it, right? I will also go on, and on Libby, you can do that. You can search by the reader. Like Barbara Rosenblatt is an actress who's an incredible reader. And I've looked up her stuff, and I'll listen, like you said, I'll listen to anything she does. She does all the voices, and she can sound like a gruff old man or a young kid and it's just marvelous. It's more like voice acting, some of these people, don't you think?
Yes, and it really is. You've got the monotone old guy who's just, it's amazing that he keeps such a steady monotone through the whole book. But then you get the people, like you say, they're falling just short of making noises and stuff, but they really break it into characters and things. And it's just like you say, voice acting. So it's again, it's such a good system. And there's so many ways to look up books, by gender or genre or author or reader. There's it's such a user-friendly system. And the books, when you go through BARD, you're actually pulling on the whole National Library. So it's huge. And the books that we might be recording in Washington are going to be different from Idaho's. It's going to be different from whatever. Oh, I knew there was something I wanted to say. So my mother was in Arizona. She lost her vision. I set her up with Arizona Talking Book and Braille Library. And I said, well, you just have to go to your eye doctor. He'll sign the form. bingo, bango, off you go. And she went, and her eye doctor wanted to charge her $35 to fill out the form. And it was one of the few times that my mother went off swearing like a drunken sailor. She had an opinion about that. And that's when I found out. I said, Mom, you can go to your librarian. And I can't even repeat what my mother said about this eye doctor, but needless to say, she never went back to that guy. But so I've never had an eye doctor or a doctor charge me for filling out a form. But once I learned that the librarians can do it, I've always sent my people. And by far, when I talk to anybody that's got visual problems or problems reading, the very first thing I recommend that they do, and there's lots, but the first thing is sign up for Talking Book and Braille. And it's by far, because the worst thing of losing my vision, it's right up there at the first couple of things, is not being able to read anymore. And I tried to do the large print, and then that faded away. So books are life. It makes the difference between going stir crazy and not. And that you can have your librarian sign up, finish the form for you is brilliant. And that you can get it all set up so simply. Usually when I talk to somebody, usually they're older. So I say, do you have kids? And they go, yeah. I go, well, get them to set up your smartphone for you, because they haven't figured it all out yet. But all these kids know how to do it. And once they get it done, it's really simple. And my mom, she listens to her books. That's all she does.
One of the nice things about the Bard app is, we've talked about you have access to materials that may not be available in the commercial market. Also, the Bard app was created specifically for folks with low vision. So the Libby app, which one can use through the library with their library card, is made for the general public. It's a great resource, but Bard that app is made specifically for that population.
And it looks to me like it's available for iPhones, iPads, Google devices, but not Windows, right?
I don't know about Windows. I just, I haven't turned down.
Because it's a mobile device and there's no Windows mobile device. So do people find?
I've got it on my desktop.
Do you have a Mac?
No, I have Windows.
Okay, well then.
So if you're going to download into a thumb drive, you could plug that into your desktop, go to the website, download the books, and by your computer say, I want it downloaded into the thumb drive. It'll ask you. It's been so long. But then you can put that thumb drive into the side. But I ended up breaking the thumb drives because they stick out a little bit on the side there. That's when I found out you could get your own blank cartridges. So you get a little cord, you plug it into the cartridge on one end, into the computer on the other end, and you download whatever you want into your own cassette. And then that cassette goes right into the machine.
How many books can they hold, Jerry? You said they were putting 6, but could you put more?
It's again, yes. I think they only put 6 because once you get more on there, it gets confusing trying to go from title to title. And, my mom can barely deal with 6. And but if you can get a bigger thumb drive, you can maybe put 20 books on there. Wow. Say you're going on a trip somewhere. You know, you got it all on one little cassette. And it's actually, once you figure out the machine, it's very easy to jump from title to title to title to title. And
So
when
Oh.
you order books from the library, it comes with on a printed card inside that's got all the books that's on that cassette.
And that piece of paper, similar to the box in which you receive your device, the cassette has a piece of paper with your name and address on it, and you can slip it out. On the
Flip it
opposite
over.
side, it has a copy of all of the books on that cassette. But then underneath it says it has the address for the Talking Book and Braille Library, and all you need to do is give it to your postal person. Take it to the post office or put it in your mailbox to be picked up.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
just I'm showing a picture for those of you who can see it of the little magazine, which is a plastic mailer. And you can see, if you look closely, it's kind of a small picture. The cassette is inside the mailer, and on the outside of the mailer is the
Address.
address book.
And it's really simple to use. You used to have to pull that little card out, flip it over, and slide it back in. And now they don't even do that anymore. So they've come up with some fixes, and then, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. If you know, that little piece of paper is going to get lost, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to end up in the garbage, or it's going to be in the cushion of your chair, and having the address just on there means that they'll get their cassette back. That kind of like thinking about what it's like to be the user is so rare in technology
Mm-hmm.
that I am super impressed with. I guess it's the Library of Congress, which must be behind this nationally, that they have spent the effort to really think about how to make this work for people.
When
I'm
the
really
system,
curious, do people still do much Braille, using Braille? Are there?
yes, if you're totally blind, Braille becomes pretty self-evident. I started to learn Braille, and I'm a massage therapist. You think I'd be really good at touching things. It's really hard. And I had one of my doctors, and this is 20 years ago, going, don't bother. He says, in a couple of years, they're going to come out with something the size of a Walkman that you're just going to scan things with, and you're going to be good to go. And it took more than a couple of years, but I learned bathrooms and elevators, and I'm happy. And, but I've got friends who are totally blind that are faster than me on a computer, and they have a strip that goes Braille on them that tells them what's on. They don't even use the screen. The script comes up, tells them what's on, what they're doing, and then they go back to the keyboard, punch it in, and then they read the Braille strip again. Because it's just, there's some amazing equipment out there. But now there's a program called Seeing, SEEING AI. And I don't think you can put it on an Android, but you can put it on an iPhone. And you can take a picture of something and it'll read one page. You can do multiple pages. It'll do barcodes. It will read handwriting.
What?
It will tell you what colors are. I don't have good color sense anymore, but it'll tell you if lights are on or off. You can take a picture of a scene, and in under 5 seconds, it will give its best shot at describing that scene to you. There used to be an old program that's still out there that you can get. It's an app. You have to download this, but when you sign up for it, you turn it on, it links you with a live volunteer. And that volunteer could be anywhere on the planet that's sitting in front of their computer, and they can use your screen, your camera. So if you're in the cupboard trying to figure out if this is cat food or tuna fish,
What?
and they'll say, nope, cat food, go down one, that, okay, move your hand to the left, grab that can. And so you're actually working with a person. And if you hold the can up to the camera, they'll read the instructions to you.
Wow.
Well,
that's
I'm
incredible.
thinking AI is going to be doing this
Very soon.
yeah.
Very, very soon. So the Seeing AI one replaced 4 different programs I used to use. And it's just so, and another thing is, I used to, when I lost my vision, I relied on magnifying glasses. Bet you I had 50 magnifying glasses in the house. And the stronger the magnifier, the tinier the lens. So the smaller the field of view that you can look at. So like to read a pill bottle, you're going to have a really small lens. So you got to get right down there, where if I pull out my iPad and take a picture of the pill bottle, I can blow that picture up as big as I want it. I don't need a magnifying glass anymore. I can do the same thing on my iPhone. Although, like if I'm in the grocery store and I've got a question, that Seeing Eye app will read barcodes.
Now that is AI, right?
No, that's just a barcode reader.
It's just reading the barcode. It isn't thinking.
Right.
It isn't thinking, oh, you know what you're looking. I know what you're looking for.
So
you gave the cat to somebody else last week. You aren't looking for cat food anymore, Jerry.
So, but the technology that's out there nowadays, it's just like the Talking Book and Braille Library is just fantastic. I'm gonna
let Tressa get in here.
All right, go
Well,
ahead.
and it's, as we've talked about the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library and the Library of Congress program, it's a worldwide resource. So and I'm surprised, Reed, if you asked for the London Review of Books that you haven't been able to get it, because in 2019, I believe it was, the United States signed the Marrakesh Treaty. And there are now, I think, over 50 countries have signed that treaty. And it facilitates the sharing of audio files for people for the blind and for people that have access to print. It facilitates the sharing of files across borders. So that means that if you are, if English is not your first language, you can request that. Now, it's not going to be an automatic download. The libraries work with each other across borders. That's what the Marrakesh Treaty facilitates. That you still have to find the recording itself.
When did this come into play?
Pardon me?
When did this get signed?
The United States signed it in 2019. I believe the Marrakesh Treaty first came into being in, I want to say, the early 2000s.
What's our sister island?
Ometepe?
Yes. Now the VIP group sponsored typewriters and the special Braille typewriters and the special paper that they take. And I knew some people down there, and they couldn't use the BARD system because it was only for Americans.
That's right. Right.
And but it sounds like that's kind of been circumvented with this treaty.
Well, yes and no. What the treaty does is, as I understand it, which is I am not a lawyer, but my understanding is that it is that BARD, you can ask for something through your state Talking Book and Braille library, who will work with BARD to go across a border and say, do you have, you know, I'm going to contact a Greek, a Greek library because somebody has asked for this in this title in Greek. So it's not that they are, that you have, when you become a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, you by default have access to the items from the National Library Service.
Right.
You do not automatically have access to works that other countries have created. However, because of the Marrakesh Treaty, as I understand it, the Library of Congress and the libraries in other countries, they are able to work together to.
So can they use our stuff?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah,
Good.
I
Good.
believe so. And Reed has brought up, he's sharing his screen.
Now, these are all the magazines available through NLS,
Right.
the National Library Service. So there's a very long, very small print list here.
Yeah.
And
It's over 100 titles.
It's a lot.
And the London Review of
just
Books is
magazines.
not on this list, but I think that we're coming close to the end of our time, but I think that the answer is, if you have questions and you are a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Association, you can always call or reach out through email, and they will help you figure out whether what you want is possible to get and how long it might take to get there.
Yes. And Reed, you've come to the second part of that website, which is magazines produced by other agencies. Now, those magazines may be at a cost, maybe not, but they will not list magazines from other countries because you don't automatically get those that our National Library Service doesn't automatically get you access to international items. You have to request them, and then they will search for them and find them. It's much like putting in a request at the an interlibrary loan request at the library. And
If you call them, they will be really helpful. And I'm impressed by how many languages are out there now.
So to call the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, the phone number is 1-800-542-0866. Again, that's 1-800-542-0866. If you're not yet a patron of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, but you're interested in learning more, maybe you want to see the player, maybe you want to apply, you can reach me at the Bainbridge Library. I would suggest calling before you come over, only because I'm not there every day. But that number is 206-451 5050. 206-451-5050. And we'll find a time when we can get together and we can we'll get the application filled out, get it in an envelope. I can send it home with you. We can fill it out together, whatever works best for you.
Thank you for finding the time to spend it with us to tell us all about this. And thank you, Jerry, for sharing your personal experience with this wonderful service. I think that it's, I know it is a game changer for people. It makes, I mean, so much of our world is in print. So much information is shared that way that if you are out of the loop on that, it can feel like you're really out of the loop.